everyone, it's Sarah and welcome to my crochet channel. Today's video I'm going to show you how to make Hoots the Owl. It can be a washcloth, it can be a pot holder, or just a decoration. They measure about 8 by 9 inches, so it's a nice size. And one thing to remember is if you're going to make this to put hot things on off the stove or out of the oven, make sure you make it out of cotton yarn. And we'll talk more about that when we talk about the supplies that you'll need. Now, Hoots the Owl is a free crochet pattern on my blog, and I'll put that blog link down in the notes underneath this video. To make Hoots the Owl, you're going to need some yarn. Both of these that are my testers are made from 100% cotton yarn. For today's demonstration, I'm going to be using this yarn here, and this is the Lion brand Cotton Blends, and I believe the color is called Fireside. I'm also going to be using a little bit of this Peaches and Cream for the beak. I'm going to use this Sugar and Cream for the center of my owl eyes. And then I'll use this beige here, which is also Peaches and Cream, for the portions on this one that are the lighter color. And you can make this out of any medium weight number 4 yarn. Just remember, it depends on what you're going to use it for. Like I said earlier, if you're going to use it to put something hot right out of the oven or off the stove on, make sure you use 100% cotton. If you use a cotton blend or an acrylic, it will catch fire or burn, and we don't want that. We put too much work into the things that we make to ruin them like that, or you could get hurt. So, you're going to need any medium weight number 4 yarn. You could go and look in your scraps and come up with some really cute colors and styles. We're going to be stitching today with our eye hook, and this is a 5.50 millimeter crochet hook. You'll need a needle to weave those ends in and your scissors. We're going to begin with our slip knot. We're going to chain 5. We're going to join this chain 5 into a circle. We'll put the tail of yarn over our hook and pull it through. We'll snug that down and then place that stay knot. We'll put our hook through the chain 5 loop, pull up a loop, and chain 3. And this chain 3 counts as 1 double crochet. Now we're going to stitch 11 more double crochet, so we'll have a total of 12. Yarn over, go in, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through the first 2 loops, yarn over, and go through the second 2 loops. That's our double crochet. So now we have 2. So I need 10 more, so I have 12 double crochets. All right, I think that's 12, but we'll count just to make sure. Here's our chain 3, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. We're going to join to the top of that chain 3 with a slip stitch and chain 3. Now, you may have noticed that I stitched over that tail of yarn. That's so I can close the hole in the center of my circle. So we'll turn it over and we'll just gently pull on that string and that will close that up. We can go ahead and grab our needle, thread that tail of yarn on there, and we'll go right ahead and weave that in. And that'll be one thing we won't have to deal with later. I'm all about working smarter, not harder. All right, we'll go ahead and cut it. And that's how row 1 should look. And this is how row 1 should look. You'll have 12 double crochets. We joined and chained 3. And now we're going to place a double crochet in the same stitch as our chain 3. We're going to place 2 double crochets in each of the stitches around. We started with 12, and so for row 2, we're going to have 24 double crochets. 2 double crochets in each of the 12 double crochets around. And we'll work all the way around the circle till we reach back to that chain 3. I've stitched those 24 double crochets, stitching 2 double crochets in each of the 12 double crochets. We're going to join to the top of our chain 3 with a slip stitch, and then we're going to slip stitch in this second double crochet. We're not going to chain 3. We're going to change to our second color. So we'll cut that, and we're going to bring in our beige color. And what we're going to do, there we go, we're going to join that in, snug that down, and then we're going to go in between these 2 double crochets. And this is, we're going to be stitching in that space. So we'll go in, pull up a loop, and chain 3. This chain 3 counts as 1 double crochet. We're going to yarn over and stitch 2 more double crochets in that same space. And what we're doing is we're stitching between the stitches. All right, we're going to chain 2. We're going to skip the next 3 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, and we're going to stitch in the space between those double crochets. So yarn over and go right in there and stitch those 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. And chain 2. And then we'll repeat that. We've done chain 2, 1, 2, 3 double crochets, and we're going to stitch in between those stitches. And chain 2. And repeat. 1, 2, 3, 3 double crochets in between those stitches. Chain 2, 1, 2, 3 double crochets, and 3 double crochets in between those stitches. One, two, 3, 3 double crochets in between. 2 chains. Oops, my ball jumped out of my bowl. 1, 2, 3. We'll go in between. This will be our last set of 3. 1, 2, 3, chain 2, and join to our chain 3. And see how that looks? You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sets of 3 double crochet, chain 2, and we stitch them in between the stitches every 3 stitches. We join to the chain 3. We're going to slip stitch in the next 2 double crochets. We're going to slip stitch in the chain 2 space and chain 3. Now we're going to place a double crochet in this same chain 2 space. And we're going to chain 2. Now we're going to stitch 2 double crochets in the center double crochet of this group of 3. So it's the second double crochet. So here's 1 and 2. So we'll go in the top of that second double crochet and stitch 2 double crochets, 1 and 2. Then we'll stitch 2 chains. We'll go in the chain 2 space, and stitch 2 double crochets and chain 2. Then that brings us to our next group of 3, and we'll stitch 2 double crochets in the second double crochet of that group of 3. Then we'll chain 2. Brings us to our next chain 2 space. We'll stitch 2 double crochets, chain 2, and now we're to our next group of 3, and so we'll stitch 2 double crochets in the center, or in that second double crochet of that group of 3, and chain 2. And so we'll repeat this, moving all the way around till we get back over here, and we'll join to our chain 3. 2 double crochets in the chain 2 space, chain 2, 2 double crochets in that center double crochet, chain 2, and repeat all the way around to our chain 3. So I've completed this row, and you should have 16 groups of 2 double crochet, chain 2. We're going to join to the top of the chain 3 with a slip stitch. We're going to slip stitch in the top of this next double crochet, and then we'll slip stitch in the chain 2 space. Now we're going to change back to our main color. So we'll cut our beige yarn, and we're going to add back in our main color. Snug that down. We'll go in, pull up a loop, and make sure everything's snug down with those new strings. There we go. We're going to chain 3. There we go. Chain 3. Then we're going to place 2 double crochets in this same chain 2 space so that we have a total of 3 double crochets, because our chain 3 here counts as 1 double crochet. We're going to chain 2, and then we'll stitch 3 double crochets in the next chain 2 space. 1, 2, and 3. Chain 2 and 3 double crochets in the next chain space. 1, 2 and 3, and chain 2. And we'll repeat this, moving all the way around in each one of the chain 2 spaces. 3 double crochets in the chain 2 space and chain 2. And we'll continue this, working all the way around in each of the chain 2 spaces, 3 double crochets, chain 2, all the way around, and join back to our chain 3. I've completed stitching 3 double crochets, chain 2 in each of the chain 2 spaces around, and you should have 16 groups of 3 double crochet, chain 2. We're going to join to the top of that chain 3 with a slip stitch and chain 3. The next thing we're going to do is form the head of our owl. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to stitch 1 double crochet in the next stitch. Then we're going to stitch 2 double crochets in the next stitch. We're going to stitch 1 double crochet in the next 2 stitches. And these are chains here, so make sure you go in the stitches, 1 and 2, and then 2 stitches in the next. And now we're going to repeat that 4 more times. 1 double crochet, 1 double crochet, 1 in each of those next 2 stitches, and 2 double crochets in the next. 1, 2. 1 double crochet in the next 2, and 2 double crochet in the next. One double crochet in the next 2, 1, and go in that chain there, and 2 double crochet in the next, 1 and 2. And we'll do this one more time. 1 double crochet in the next 2, 1 and 2, and 2 double crochets in the next, 1 and 2. We're going to chain 3 and then we'll turn, but I want you to see how that looks. We stitch those stitches in the chains and in the double crochets, and you're going to be on the end of this double crochet and the end of this one, and this is how it should look. We stitch those double crochets. You should have 24 double crochets, chain 3 and turn. Our chain 3 counts as our first double crochet, so we'll begin stitching in the second double crochet. Yarn over, and we're going to place 1 double crochet in each double crochet. One double crochet in each of those double crochets, moving across the top, and of course we're forming the head of our owl. 1 double crochet in each of the double crochets across. Again, you should have 24 double crochets. We're going to chain 3, turn, and repeat what we just did. 1 double crochet in each double crochet across. Stitching all the way across. 1 double crochet in each double crochet across. I've completed that last row of double crochet, and again you should have 24 double crochets. Now we're going to turn and work down the side of our head of our owl, so we're going to chain 1 instead of chaining 3. And we're going to place 6 single crochets down this side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And this brings us to the side of our owl, or around the body of our owl. And so what we're going to do is single crochet around the whole body of the owl. So what we're going to do is we're going to place a single crochet in the chain 2 space, and then we'll place 1 single crochet in each of the 3 double crochets. 1 single crochet in the chain 2 space, and 1 single crochet in each of the double crochets. One single crochet in the chain 2 space, and 1 single crochet in each of the double crochets. And that's going to give us just a nice even edge on our owl. And then after we complete this, we're going to come back in and add those scallop stitches around the edge, or those shell stitches around the edge. So just to repeat, 1 single crochet in the chain 2 spaces, and 1 single crochet in each of the 3 double crochets, and repeat. We'll continue to do this till we reach all the way back to this other side of our owl. I've single crocheted all the way around the body of my owl, and it brings me back to this other side of the owl head. And we're going to place 6 single crochets like we did over here. One, oops, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Oops, I missed a stitch. There we go. There's my 6 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now I'm going to turn, and we're going to place 1 single crochet in each of these double crochets to reach back over here. 1 single crochet in each of the double crochets moving across the top of our owl's head. I finished single crocheting across the top of my owl's head, and what we're going to do next is we're going to turn. We're going to slip stitch in those 6 stitches, and then we're going to make our shell stitches. Alright, so go ahead and chain 1, then we'll go in the first stitch and just stitch a slip stitch, and we'll do this working down the side of our owl. And this is just to get us down to the circle or the body of the owl so we can make those shell stitches. We've slip stitched down the side of the owl, and what we're going to do is in this single crochet that's in the first chain 2 space is we're going to stitch 4 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So there's our first shell stitch. Now we're going to skip the next single crochet and single crochet in the center single crochet that lines up with the center double crochet of that cluster that's down here. Alright, now we're going to skip the next single crochet and stitch 3 double crochets in the single crochet that lines up with the chain 2 space. So we're stitching 4 double crochets. And we stitched them in the single crochet that lines up with the next chain 2 space. We'll skip the next single crochet and single crochet in the next single crochet. We'll skip the next single crochet and stitch 4 double crochets in the next single crochet. And again, the single crochet is the single crochet that we stitched in the chain 2 space. Skip the next single crochet and single crochet in the next. We'll skip the next single crochet and stitch 4 double crochets in the next single crochet. 4 double crochets in this single crochet. Skip the next and single crochet in the next. And this is the way that this pattern will work for this row. Shell stitch in the single crochet that lines up with the chain 2 space. We'll skip the next single crochet and single crochet in the single crochet that lines up with the 3rd double crochet of this group. And we'll continue to repeat this, working around, stitching 4 double crochets in the single crochet, skip 1, single crochet in the next, skip 1, and 4 double crochets in the next, working all the way around till we reach back over here. I've completed those shell stitches, and you should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 shell stitches, because each of the shell stitches line up with these chain 2 spaces. Alright, so now we're just going to join to that first single crochet with a slip stitch and tie off. And now the body of our owl is completed. We need to take a few minutes and weave in those ends, and then I'm going to show you how to make the beak and the eyes. To make the beak, we're going to chain 4, and I'm using this gold yarn for my beak. 1, 2, 3, and 4. We're going to place 3 double crochets in the 4th chain from the hook. 1, 2, 3, 4. Go in, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through the first 2, yarn over, and go through the second 2. And we'll stitch 2 more. Our chain 3 counts as 1, and then we stitch 3, so we have 4 double crochets. We're going to chain 1 and turn. And now what we're going to do is just place a single crochet in each of those double crochets. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So there's our little beak. We're going to tie off, but we're going to leave ourselves a good amount of yarn, about 12 inches, so that we can sew this on the front of our owl. So I'll go ahead and tie that off, and we'll set this aside to put onto our owl. But first we need to add our eyes. To make the eyes, I'm going to start with the darker brown color, and then I'll switch to the lighter color because I want the center of my eye to be dark brown. So I'm going to start with a slip stitch, and I'm going to chain 5. I'm going to join this chain 5 in a circle. I'll put my hook in, pull up a loop, and chain 3. Now I'm going to stitch 9 more double crochets, so I have a total of 10 double crochets for the center of my eye. And this is a brown variegated yarn, so it's going to have some lighter and darker brown colors to it. Now remember, you need to make 2 eyes because you want your owl to have 2 eyes. Alright, let me count, see how many double crochets I have. Here's my chain 3, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We need 1 more. So we have 10 double crochets. We're going to join to our chain 3. And then we'll pull that string to close the center hole of our eye. I've cut my yarn, and now I'm going to join in my lighter color. And then I'm going to chain 2 because we're going to be stitching half double crochets for the second row. Yarn over, I'm going to go in the same stitch as my chain 3, pull up a loop, yarn over, and go through all 3 loops. Now we'll go in the next stitch and stitch 2 half double crochets. And so what we're doing is stitching 2 half double crochets, and each of those 10 stitches are round, and then we'll join back to our first chain 2. Now remember, you need to make 2 eyes so that your owl will have 2 eyes. Two half double crochets in each of the 10 stitches around, and join back to our chain 2. I've stitched my 20 stitches around. I'm going to join to the top of that chain 2 with a slip stitch. There we go. And I'm going to tie off, and I'm going to leave myself a good amount of yarn. I'm going to say about 18 to 20 inches because I'm going to use this to sew this onto my owl. I'm going to go in the next stitch, pull that loop to the back, and then tie that off. And that's going to help my eye look like it's laying just a little bit more flat and uniform. Now I need to weave in these shorter strings, and then I'll show you how to sew on your eyes and also your beak. Now I've already sewn this eye in place, and now we're going to do this one. So what we're going to do first is make this little line. And so here's the side. I'll go up from the bottom and just make a little line through the center, and it gives the eye just a little bit of character. You don't have to add that if you don't want to. All right, and then I just come right back up through the side, and then I place them in the right spot, making sure they're even. We want to have enough room to put the beak in as well. And it's going to be up on the edge, it's going to be on the edge here, it's going to be on the edge here. There's just enough room for the eye. All right, so now we're just going to go in and out these stitches. Moving around the eye. Let me turn it a little so I can get in there. And I'm going in and out, moving around the eye. Sometimes I'll come back one stitch and move forward. Just depends on how I think the eye is laying, because I want the eye to stay put. I want it to be able to go through many washes and uses. And what I do is I just continue going around until I'm all out of yarn that I have on my needle. I just keep going around and around and around, making sure the eye's going to stay put. All right, so then when I get where I feel like it's going to stay put, I'll go to the back and just weave that in. So here's the beak that we made earlier, and we want to place that beak like right up next to the eyes like that. And what I do is, you notice where we started, you have these 2 stitches right here. So I go in between those stitches and I pull that bottom string to the back. And that's going to help me know where that needs to go. And it's just kind of helps me place it, I guess you would say. All right, then I take my long end and I thread it on my needle. And I start by stitching the top of the beak. All right, now I'm just going to move down the side, stitching in those stitches. And again, it's up to you how many times you want to go around the beak. Just make sure you've stitched it until you like how it's staying put. And I want to make sure it's got a nice pointy beak on it, so I'm going back down here, making sure it's got a nice pointy beak. All right, then I'll just turn it over and weave it all in. Move this one out of the way there. There we go. And with our needle, we'll just weave these ends in. and then our owl will be finished. So here's Hoot the Owl with his other friends, and you can see you can make them in lots of different colors. Isn't he cute? Hoo-hoo!